Hello and welcome to another episode of Inside the Huddle. Today is Saturday, March 7th. This is episode 99 of the Inside the Huddle podcast. Thank you as always for joining us. Make sure to please like and subscribe here on YouTube. We're just about 48 hours away from free agency legal tampering period opening up in the NFL on Monday, March 9th. So looking forward to that as the offseason continues to roll on here. And the offseason really starts to take shape here, and we've already got plenty of big moves, plenty of news to discuss today here on the podcast. Two big trades in the AFC. Bills acquired DJ Moore in the AFC East, and then Maxx Crosby goes from the AFC West up north to Baltimore in a massive trade, blockbuster trade there. He is officially out in Vegas, and the Ravens get a big-time pass rusher, so we'll dive into both of those. We'll also get into the latest on Stefon Diggs. We'll dive into some quarterback stuff later on as we get closer to free agency. Crazy part is free agency hasn't even hit yet, and we've already got these big moves. We've already got all these things across the NFL that are, making waves here. Got a lot of rumors as well to debunk. So, DiMari, the NFL offseason's in full swing. Big day the last couple days, blockbuster trade Friday night, Ravens, Raiders get a deal done. How's it going, man?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. It's been heating up. News is heating up. We are starting to get into the good part of, the off season where we're starting to see new people in new places. So that's something to look forward to and kind of love it. I actually enjoy it so much, like it gives you something to look forward to. But praying for Joe Burrow this morning. If he didn't see the news last night, he surely saw it this morning. And boy, is he gonna have a time over there in the AFC North. But it's been a pretty great week as far as just some moves around the league, like you mentioned. We're expecting a lot more soon. Soon here we're gonna have the draft, so I'm excited for how this offseason started so far. But let's get into what we got so far.
Yeah, facing Maxx Crosby, Myles Garrett, and TJ Watt, six times a year is uh, tough. No other way to put it. And from a Bengals perspective, you get Trey Hendrickson that hits free agency, so they lose kind of their star pass rusher. Not exactly a hot start to the offseason for them as they look to rebound from what has been the last two disappointing seasons defensively. Clear gap in the division from Steelers, Browns, and Ravens defenses compared to what Cincinnati rolls out there too. The Burrow angle is obviously funny, but I also find it interesting when you look at all these other teams in that division now equipped with all-star pass rushers, with Baltimore landing theirs, and you got Cincinnati sitting there with one of the league's worst defenses and Trey Hendrickson out the door. So things are going, I guess, as you'd expect right now in Cincy. But we'll start today with some AFC East news. We'll start today with the Buffalo Bills as they acquire a wide receiver. DiMari, we've been on this a ton. We talk about a lot of times. Probably one of the most talked about subjects on this podcast comes down to probably the Bills wide receiver, a couple other topics, but the Bills wide receiver room and the lack thereof high-end talent, a legitimate number one receiver, has been a discussion for a while now, really going back to last season. You want to even go back to a year before that, ever since they moved on from Stefon Diggs. It has been a talking point, and we've talked about a variety of different names that could potentially end up in Buffalo, pair them alongside Josh Allen and kind of a new look Bills team with Joe Brady taking over the reins as head coach from earning a promotion from offensive coordinator to the lead man, and they land DJ Moore here. So Buffalo is sending a 2026 second round pick to Chicago in exchange for DJ Moore, and Chicago will also get a 2026 fifth round pick in the deal. Or I apologize, the Bills also get a 2026 fifth round pick in the deal. Some contract stuff that I thought was interesting and does impact a little bit the way I view this deal, because for the most part, I understand it from the Bills' perspective. I also kind of can see the vision too from the Bears' perspective. But the Bills will be guaranteeing $15.5 million of DJ Moore's $23.5 million base salary in 2028. So you're essentially paying him now for the next 3 seasons. You break down the numbers, it's along the lines of like a 3-year, $74 million when you essentially break down the guaranteed money over this season, next season, and 2028 for DJ Moore, who is 28 years old, will be 29, coming off of a bit of a down year in Chicago, but he walks into that room nonetheless, the number one guy, the best receiver in that Bills room, and he is an upgrade. So what is your thoughts on this move?
Well, for those that's been watching for quite some time, you can finally, scratch it off your list. After today, we probably won't have another episode talking about Buffalo, at least for a year, needing a receiver. So that's all said and done. But for Buffalo side of it, actually for both sides of it, Buffalo and Chicago, I like the move. And you mentioned it where he's coming off a down year in Chicago, and DJ Moore just didn't look good. And it wasn't necessarily because of him on the field. I think it had a lot more to do with the lack of being involved in the offense, kind of the upcoming of Luther Burden, kind of couldn't get the ball. I mean, if we're being honest, this is probably the worst worst season he's had in his career in quite some time. Not a single game with 100 yards, a career low in yards and receptions. And it's so weird because if you watch that Bears offense this year and some of the games where they put up so many points, so many yards, you're like, DJ Moore had to have had a big game. And a lot of those games, DJ Moore was a non-factor. So I think it was best for both sides to kind of part ways. DJ Moore obviously dropped a statement thanking his time in Chicago and ended that statement with, and it's always F the Packers. So that kind of shows he's leaving in good spirits. Like, there was no bad blood between the two sides of it. And DJ Moore's always been that guy. He doesn't complain to the media. He's not a diva. He's not on the sideline, throwing fits. So for him, did his due part in Chicago. Now he goes over to Buffalo, where I think he's going to excel. And you mentioned the contract as well. They have him until 2029. So this shows me for Buffalo and Joe Brady, who we've talked about it countless times. Josh Allen, that clock's kind of ticking. Like, it's starting to speed up a little bit as he's aging. So this shows me Buffalo is trying to make a splash, and they're in win now mode. Whether it's this year, whether it's next year, up until however long they have DJ Moore, this is showing me Buffalo wants to win as soon as possible.
Yeah, 100%. And they have to win now, and they have to capitalize on this window, because the reality is, while some may not want to admit it, and while some feel like they could still be this elite team in the playoffs every single year for the next decade, Josh Allen's going to be 30 years old. They have fallen short each time in his career, going back to 2018. He is now 8 years into the NFL. This will be his 9th season coming up this year, and they've fallen short every time. And we talked about a lot. This is kind of like the first time from a Bills perspective where there is a little bit of a changing of the guard. It's a little bit of a new era. Forever now, it's just been Sean McDermott. It's been the Sean McDermott and Josh Allen Bills. And you've kind of had some different iterations of this team, whether you want to look at the Stefon Diggs years where it was Allen and Diggs and they had a number one receiver for him. Now you want to look at these last 2 years where it was kind of not as talented of a roster, but Josh Allen took his game to another level and was still able to carry this team to the playoffs and get this team at the top of the AFCs consistently up until this year when New England took over. But the point being is, this is a little bit of a new era for them. This is a little bit of a changing of the guard, and like, they've got to capitalize here pretty soon. Josh Allen's not getting any younger. Joe Brady, he has a lot of pressure on him. You didn't hire Joe Brady to make the divisional round. Sean McDermott can do that. You didn't hire Joe Brady to make the AFC title game. Sean McDermott can do that. Previous iterations of this Bills team have shown you they could do that. You put a lot of pressure on you where really it's been that way for a while, but now more than ever, it's Super Bowl or bust, because you have a new head coach who you feel is going to be able to put you over the top. And if that's the case, you've got to get to a Super Bowl here very quick. And having a legitimate number one receiver, getting help at that position certainly helps your chances at getting to that goal and achieving that goal. And it's interesting from the DJ Moore perspective. It's just very interesting in general from this Bears team. Getting ready for the show yesterday, I was looking at some of the numbers, and it's so weird to think that the Bears didn't have a 1,000-yard receiver last year, right? Everything we talk about with the Bears last season, you win 11 games, you beat the Packers in the wild card, You pushed the Rams to the brink in the divisional round. Like, you were right there. You were a couple plays away from being in the NFC title game, fighting for the right to go to Super Bowl 60. And to think that they didn't have a 1,000-yard receiver in a season where Caleb Williams fell just, I think just a bit over 60 yards or 4,000 yards, which, is not something you see ever in Chicago Bears history. He was that close. And all that considered, Colston Loveland led the way. So, and he had the Roma Dunzes and the Luther Burdens. And from the Bears' perspective, you understand the trade. Colston Loveland's, he's going to take over. He's one of your big targets. He one of your big threats in the passing game. Same thing with Roma Dunze. Same thing with Luther Burden. I think they expect Luther Burden to take a jump here in year two. More opportunities, more looks, kind of could fill that DJ Moore role in a way. From DJ Moore's standpoint, yeah, it was definitely a disappointing season. 50 catches just on 85 targets. This is the lowest targets he's ever had in a year since his rookie season. Now, one thing I will say about DJ Moore, he's reliable. He's available. And we talk a lot about, with any position, but especially receivers, and the rapport between a quarterback and his number one wide receiver. Your best ability is availability. DJ Moore plays every single game. And that's something I like about him. Is he elite? No. Is he the same receiver he was 2-3 years ago? Probably not. I don't know if he's going to be. I think there's a very good chance maybe I'm wrong. I guess I'm kind of talking out of both ends of my mouth right now, because I do see a world where he has a monster season just because of Josh Allen. Josh Allen has proven. I mean, Josh Allen got Matt Collins a nice little payday. That's not many quarterbacks can do that in this league. Josh Allen made Brandon Cooks at this age make some plays. Not many quarterbacks can do that. So if there was a quarterback to turn DJ Moore back into that 1,100, 1,200, 1,300 type of receiver after 2 years where he was below the 1,000-yard threshold, it would be Josh Allen. But that's what I am happy you mentioned it. And that's what's big about all this is he's not a diva. He doesn't say anything. He goes about his business. He plays every single game. He's missed 2 games in his career. He's played 131 of a possible 133 games. He hasn't missed a game since 2020. He's played all 17 over the last 5 seasons, split between Carolina and Chicago. And he's been solid. He's been good. Again, he's not elite, but he's a solid wide receiver, and he instantly walks into that Bills room as the number one. I guess to you, do you expect him to have kind of a bounce back season in terms of what we saw last year? Are you worried at all at 29 years old or soon to be 29 years old? He's on the downward, or do you feel Josh can revitalize that a bit?
Well, considering that he didn't, wasn't really utilized as much in Chicago and he was obviously healthy, I think he still has a lot left in the tank. And, for the sake of DJ Moore, this isn't just a guy who's going to go out there and it's kind of one dimensional. We've seen it in Chicago last year, how Ben Johnson used him. He used him in the backfield. He used him in the slot. He used him in many different positions on the field. So he also brings that element of the game, which I think can help him be more effective. So is he going to get 11, 1,200? I don't know, because we kind of know with the Josh Allen thing, he's not going to, force targets to the number one guy. And this is why this is such a great fit, because DJ Moore is, once again, I'm going to repeat it for the 3rd time. He's not really, hey, give me the ball. I need the ball. He's going to go out there. He's going to do what he has to do, make the plays, and continue to help the team win. So for the sake of DJ Moore, I don't see him going out there with the necessity of I need this many catches, this many yards. But then again, it's Josh Allen. And when Josh Allen gets in a jam, when Josh Allen needs a play, obviously once they build that type of rapport, DJ Moore's going to be the guy that Josh Allen goes to. So it's kind of up in the wind as far as that. But him being on the field, I honestly think just the mix of him being such a factor now in the run game as well, and being that type of receiver that can go out there and make you plays, I don't see why he doesn't have a big season. And yeah, I know the age, like I said, he's 29 years old, but he's been healthy. If this was a guy we're talking about fighting a bunch of injuries and those type of things, maybe it's like, okay, we're starting to see a little bit of decrease. But he had good games in Chicago. He just couldn't get the ball. For some reason, him and Caleb couldn't click. Him and Ben Johnson couldn't get on the same page as far as getting him the targets and the ball enough. I think he has a big season. But I do want to throw one more thing out there. You mentioned the word pressure, and I'm glad you mentioned the word pressure on this team in general, because you have to be the front runner now, right? In the East, you look at the Patriots, and I know this is crazy to say because you're like, well, the Patriots were just in the Super Bowl. Correct. But hey, they lost a huge chunk of that offense that got them to the Super Bowl. He is now gone. I don't think they repeat. You know how hard it is to, not only just make it to the AFC Championship, that's one thing, but to get to the Super Bowl, that's another. So I think New England takes a step back. I'm so sorry. The Jets are the Jets are the Jets. The Jets are
Yeah.
the Jets right now. The Dolphins are the Dolphins. So if you are Buffalo and you're Joe Brady with this move, and I think they're going to do more. I don't think they're done. If you're Buffalo, you're Joe Brady, you're Josh Allen. You're like, man, I'm coming up. I'm great. I am a top three quarterback. You know, it's almost expected. Like you just said, it's kind of division round or bust, AFC Championship or bust, Super Bowl or bust. If you're Josh Allen, you know every year I got to get to the playoffs, at least to the second round. You probably got arguably one of the best, not even arguably, you have one of the best running backs in football that has really made a name for himself. Now you bring over DJ Moore, who you can argue second best receiver in the division behind Garrett Wilson, of course. You got the best quarterback in the division, and you have a team that's been solid for quite some time. You have you have to make a splash. Like you have to make the Super Bowl this year, because if not, I think the pressure will continue to build. And you said it perfectly, Joe Brady. Your job is not to get them to the second round or the AFC Championship. You need a Super Bowl, and I think this is the most pressure they're going to have on them in quite some time. If I'm being honest.
Yeah, 100%. They moved on from Sean McDermott. They made these changes. They're bringing in DJ Moore. They're doing all this because they believe a new look offense, a new look coaching staff is going to change things and take this team over the top. And anything less than a Super Bowl, anything less than just a Super Bowl appearance, forget winning the Super Bowl. At the very least, this team's got to at least get to the big game and have an opportunity to play 60 good minutes of football and take home a Lombardi trophy. They haven't even been given that opportunity. They haven't even gotten to a Super Bowl. That's what's crazy through all of this, through all these years of Josh Allen. It's still crazy that he hasn't even at least gotten to a Super Bowl, right? It's one thing to not win one. It's another thing to just continue to fall short in the same fashion, same way every single season. And look, I don't, the Bills are going to make the playoffs, and I think there is a chance that they do win this division. I don't see the Patriots going 14-3 again. I think in terms of the Bills' likelihood of winning 12, 13 games again is much higher than New England winning 13 or 14 games. I think New England's going to take a pretty sizable step back. And that's not even saying they're not going to be good this year. Going 14-3, it's tough to repeat 14-3. So in a lot of ways, even if they go 13-4, that's still technically a step back. It's tough to be that good and that dominant and take advantage of, let's call a spade a spade. It was a weaker schedule. Take advantage of that schedule 2 years in a row. It's not easy to do that. So naturally, they're going to have a little bit of probably regression. And the Bills have proven that they could be here year in and year out near the top of the division. And yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, Miami and the Jets are their afterthoughts right now. They're essentially battling it out for Arch Manning at this point in 2026. But yeah, they've got to win. And you add DJ Moore now to the mix. It's a nice upgrade. It's a number one receiver. My whole thing with Buffalo and my whole thing with this whole coaching staff that I still am just a little confused on is going back to the owner, Terry Pagula, bashing the offensive coaching staff for drafting Keon Coleman, and then you hired the offensive coordinator as your head coach. That to me just didn't make a ton of sense, right? It's, and I know that's like that's an afterthought now because it's over with. Joe Brady's the head coach, so nothing, that doesn't really matter anymore. But it's just funny. I don't know, like, how much of a leash is Joe Brady really on? Like, is there a world where Joe Brady's out in 2 years? Is there a world where they just stink this season? Brady's a disaster. And my whole thing is with the Bills, I just don't know how Brady's going to be the one to get him over the top. Like, he's been in the organization now for a couple years. I don't know. We talk about some of the there's a lot of Bills fans that complained a little bit with some of the play calling in the playoffs. So now that he's head coach, that's just going to change. Like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm the only thing I can think of, which
I guess the thing I'm trying to say is not to cut you off. I would have brought in somebody from the outside. I would have brought in a Dable. Dable was my top choice. And I'm a lot higher on Dable than most. I think Dable is a good coach in the NFL. I think he got a little bit of a raw deal with the Giants. I think you gave him a terrible general manager who didn't know how to build a quality roster, and we're seeing it now. Harbaugh's essentially taken all of Joe Shane's power away. I think if you pair Dable with a good roster builder and a good general manager, and you put him in with a good quarterback, an elite quarterback like Josh Allen, he can win football games in this league. Not to go to the whole Giants thing, but I would have taken Dable. I would have taken somebody from the outside. They were in on Clint Kubiak, somebody like that, as opposed to let's hire a guy that's been here the last couple seasons that's witnessed these early playoff exits and hope something changes.
I mean, the side of it that I see and I understand is, again, now Josh Allen going into year 9, you don't want to bring in a new face, a new voice, a new system, because that new system cannot work. Obviously, the Josh Allen, Joe Brady system has worked. It's the shortcomings. They get to the playoffs and, they just can't get over that hump. So that side of it, I understand. You kind of roll with what has worked. It's just it gets to a point where it gets down the road and it kind of halts. So if it wasn't working from the jump, I understand why they would go a new direction. But from that side of it, I understand. But I'm right there with you on the other side. Like, I'm kind of split 50-50. I'm right there with you on the other side of a guy like Dable who has proven, like, yeah, I can win. You mentioned the Giants gave the guy a half-eaten bag of chips and a lukewarm drink and said, hey, go out here and, figure it out. This is not the case. He didn't have anything to work with. And I think he's going to prove that this year in Tennessee, at least, that you give me something to work with, I can make things work. I can make things shake. I can, lead a group of guys. He couldn't do that with the Giants. And I don't want to get back over it. We talked about this last episode, but I have seen mock drafts of people on Twitter and people on Instagram that have had better mock drafts than what Joe Shane has actually put together as an NFL GM. So I'm right there with you. Dable was given nothing to succeed, and he really just got the short end of the stick over there with the Giants. But I agree. I think he should have, been brought over to Buffalo, and he's given that opportunity where not necessarily a short leash, but it's like, hey, you got 2 years. We need you to get us a Super Bowl. At least get us a Super Bowl appearance. And then if we don't see a Super Bowl appearance, we might consider changing some things around, bringing in different guys around you, not necessarily getting rid of you as the part of the problem. But kind of, again, everything's up in the air, and I'm going to tie this into Dallas. It was kind of the same thing we talked about last offseason with Scotty, which is like, how is this going to work? We don't know anything about this guy in that form of coaching. And you saw how the guys kind of rallied around him. They played some good football and they showed some fight. So maybe as a guy that's been in the organization for quite some time, Josh Allen is comfortable with, a lot of these other vets are comfortable with, they might play a lot harder for him. They, respect him a lot more, but only time will tell. And honestly, this is going to be something exciting to look forward to come regular season, because I am very excited to see what the Bills are going to do, not only with this new start, new stadium, new regime, but just if Josh Allen can finally get it done.
Yeah, and the new stadium, too, you add on to that, that's like even more of the kind of going along the new era type of things for this Bills team. You get out of the old stadium, you go to the new one, you got a new head coach. Quarterback is going to be 30 years old. He's going to be in his 30s now. His 20s, his younger years, if that makes sense, are behind him. If he's going to play, it's crazy to think Josh Allen's entering his 9th year, right? If he's going to play, 15, 16 years in this league, he's already halfway through, which is crazy to think how much time's flown and how much more of an importance it is to take advantage of this opportunity. And look, here's the thing I'll say too about Joe Brady, and I know we'll move on to the Patriots and Diggs. Allen was in on all those meetings. Josh Allen had a big say in this head coach. So he clearly wanted Brady. He clearly respects Brady. And at the end of the day, your star quarterback, if he's happy and he's okay with it and he feels like it could work and he likes the potential pairing, he's obviously been working with him over the last couple of years. I mean, Brady only the offensive coordinator for, I believe, the last 2 seasons, but it's been with the team since 2022. So he's been around now. Allen's worked with him very closely. He obviously feels like he could be your leader. If your star quarterback's happy, that's at the end of the day all that matters. And we'll see how things kind of play out from there. Moving on now to another top team in the AFC East, and that is the New England Patriots. As the Bills added DJ Moore, the Patriots made a subtraction to their wide receiver room. They officially released Stefon Diggs a few days ago. So Diggs is out after just one season in Foxborough. His salary cap charge was expected to rise from $10.5 million to $26.5 million, which was kind of the big reasoning behind this move. And the reason it was made when it was made is if he was on the roster by the end of last week, it would have raised an additional $6 million on his guaranteed contract, or guaranteed money on his contract. So Diggs is out. Stefon Diggs' first season, or I shouldn't say first season, only season in New England was kind of interesting because he goes out and has a pretty solid regular season. Him and Drake May had a good rapport together. 85 catches, 1,013 yards, 4 touchdowns, 11.9 yards per reception. Not the player he was in Buffalo, not even the player we saw at times in Minnesota. Coming off the injury that he had, the torn ACL in Houston, for him to go out there and play all 17 games was, I think, something that Patriots fans were very happy about. Patriots fans were pleased about in terms of going out there, staying healthy, and playing well. But the thing with Diggs, and you saw this towards the end of the year, specifically into the playoffs, he just wasn't a factor in the playoffs. He just wasn't, from what we saw in the regular season at times. There was a couple big games from Stefon Diggs. There was a couple vintage Stefon Diggs performances for this Patriots team this year that we saw a few times. One of those was against Baltimore. I believe it was that the Thursday night game? Maybe not. No, I think that was Sunday night, Thursday night. What am I talking about? I think it was a Sunday night game against Baltimore where he went off for like 138 yards. He had a couple. He had 4 or 5 rather 100 plus receiving yard games. Thing is, you can kind of see the writing on the wall here. When you entered the playoffs, the numbers just dropped off. The impact has dropped off. He was barely involved in the game plan. You look at the Super Bowl, he was barely involved. The same goes for the title game. You can even go back to all 3 of the games. Yeah. He was not much of a factor. You add in the off the field stuff. That's obviously been over the Patriots and over Stefon Diggs really all season. It feels like it gets worse week by week. And I think he's got a court hearing or something in April. So I don't know exactly what Diggs' future is, but your thoughts on this move?
The off the field stuff, I think, is the only reason the Patriots moved on from him.
Yeah, I agree.
Like Stefon Diggs' season was so weird because if you look at the stats, as far not counting last year, of course, with the injury, but this is probably the least productive season he's had since 2018. If we're being so honest, he just wasn't that good. There were some games, you mentioned it, where he looked vintage. He looked like young Stefon Diggs. And then you talk about the playoff games where he did absolutely nothing. But guess what? None of the team did anything during that playoff run, if we're being honest. The whole offense stunk it up. So I really don't think this had anything to do with his play on the field. Again, he was a big part in why they made it to the Super Bowl. And something I also found pretty interesting, doing notes earlier, he caught 85 of his 103 targets, this past season, which is the second highest receiving percentage in like the last 10 seasons. The first being Michael Thomas in 2018, that was higher. And then right below him was Amon-Ra St. Brown in 2024. So that shows efficiency. That shows production. Yet necessarily he wasn't out there 1,400 yards, but a lot of what came his way, he caught. And you have one job as a wide receiver: catch the football. And he did that at a very high
Yep.
rate. So as much as the numbers may have been down, as much as he may not have showed up in the postseason, as many games maybe he didn't play too well. I think this had nothing to do with him and his production on the field. It's everything to do with everything going on legally off the field, which kind of sucks because you want to see a guy like that who was so good in Minnesota, who was so good in Buffalo, just focus on football. If you just focus on football, which I also think was a part of why he didn't play too well in the playoffs, he had other things going on. Like if you just focus on football and you are around a crowd of people that's going to help you elevate and put you in a good mindset, you avoid these type of things. And I'm not necessarily saying that his career is over, but this is a guy that's going to be 33 in November. He's coming off of legal troubles. Teams are going to look at him and be like, can we even trust this guy to be able to play 17 games? Not because of injury, because what are you going to do in season that is going to, kind of hurt inside the locker room? And it's kind of ironic. It's kind of crazy that out of all teams to do this all, you do this in New England because the
Yeah.
whole thing has always been the Patriot way. Mike
Yeah.
Vrabel brought over the Patriot way, where it was such a boot camp. It was football, football, football. We're going to win games. Leave the outside noise outside. Focus on what we have going on in the building.
Yeah.
And you have this team who you're playing on this team that exceeded expectations through the roof, and everything was so good all year round. It looks like you have a nice team going forward, and you mess it up by doing stupid things off the field. So, I mean, for Stefon Diggs, again, I don't want to say the career is over, but I feel like you're going to have a hard time finding somewhere to land because a lot of teams right now don't want to bring a cancer in the locker room. And right now, Stefon Diggs, that's what you are, is a cancer.
Yeah, and throwing the money on it as well, taking on that money right now for a guy that might not play. Now, that all changes if there's a suspension or whatever the case may be. I think I guess there's rules and stuff for that. I'm not exactly sure how all that contract stuff exactly plays out. But yeah, I mean, from an on the field perspective, while his numbers in the grand scheme of things were down from a career standpoint, the eye test was still solid in some of these games. And more importantly, I actually think the numbers, I can kind of flip it into a positive where the guy was coming off an injury in Houston where he only played 8 games that season. And at 32 years old to come off of an injury halfway through that season, the torn ACL that he suffered, with Houston, to come off of that injury and play all 17 games and play all 17 games, eclipse 1,000 yards, over 80 receptions, do all those things at that age is very impressive. That's something that I think in our 31 years old, technically turned 32 in November. So 31, age 32 season, that's exactly what you want to see. And from a Patriots perspective, I think you got more out of Diggs than probably many expected. Like if you would have told a Patriots fan at the beginning of the season, I mean, if you would have told a Patriots fan at the beginning of the season, everything that would happen, they would obviously sign up for it. But specifically with Diggs, that to go out there, play all 17 games, eclipse 1,000 yards, be top 15 in the NFL in receptions. You mentioned the reception rate, 85 receptions on 102 targets, very high. He doesn't drop passes. He's reliable. And to be reliable on the field, too, from an availability standpoint, is also very important because let's call it like it is. A wide receiver that is north of 30, that just tore his ACL, is a concern. There's no other way to put it. That is a very concerning thing. I don't think anybody would have been surprised if Diggs went out there this season and only played 9 or 10 games and got injured again or didn't look the same. There was a couple vintage Stefon Diggs moments. There was a couple moments where he was able to turn back the clock. I agree. I think a lot of it has to do with the legal issues. And I think you do look at the playoff numbers, and that's kind of where the legal issues were at the height of it. And it makes sense because when New England was in the playoffs, they were attracting more and more attention. Super Bowl week, we had a lot more come out with Diggs during that 2-week period there. So I don't know what's next for Stefon Diggs. I don't know if he's going to, I think he probably ends up playing again in the NFL. I don't know. I mean, we never know with these guys. Again, I think there's a court hearing in April. it's just stupid stuff to be doing at this point in his career. No other way to put it. Like, you gotta just keep the off the field stuff. Don't cause chaos off the field. And you're returning to New England. You're making a good chunk of money. You had a very good season. You got a good pairing with Drake May, a good young quarterback you're playing with. This was a little bit of a resurgence for Diggs this season in a lot of ways. I think, myself included, I doubted what he was able to do this year coming off of what took place in Houston. Even prior to the injury in Houston, he didn't look that good prior to the injury in Houston. Like, it's one thing if he was playing well, then he got hurt. He wasn't playing that well. But this season, that was different. And then to have the off the field issues pop up at this point, now you take into account he's going to be 33 in November. So he's entering his age 32, age 33 season. He's got legal issues. Who's going to want to take a chance on that? Who's going to want to, bring that type of guy in? I'm not sure. Do you think he's back?
Yeah, I think he'll be back. And I got a few landing spots for him that he can potentially end up at. But let's call a spade a spade. A lot of these guys in the NFL do a lot of dumb things that a regular, civilian cannot do, and it's kind of a slap on the wrist. And I think it's the same thing for Stefon Diggs.
Yeah, a lot of them get away with it. I mean, if we're being honest, like you said, calling a spade a spade. If it wasn't for the NFL, a lot of these guys would be
in jail.
I mean, yeah, they would be locked
up. Should not be in the league right now.
Rice should not be in the league. There's a lot of guys that should not be in the NFL right now. There's a lot of guys that are probably doing bad stuff that we don't even know about in the NFL. And I say this too. There is a lot of bad, just human beings in the NFL. No other way to put it. Because you got to separate the football player and the human being.
Yeah.
Like Stefon Diggs, good football player. All accounts sounds like an awful human being. Rashee Rice, pretty good football player. All accounts, awful human being. You got to you got to be able to separate the two. And yeah, the reality is like a slap on the wrist. If there was, if these guys were regular everyday people, if you and I were doing what some of these guys were doing, we'd be behind bars doing inside the huddle from the jail. That makes sense. So, and look, there is also a lot of good in the NFL too. Like, there is, every sport's got their guys. Every sport has their, the good ones, the bad. It's anything. It's everyday life. There's good people. There's bad people. But there is some good too in the NFL. I mean, there is guys that do a lot of great stuff. There is guys that are good, legitimate, good human beings that last long in the NFL or don't cause any problems off the field, and there is the opposite. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think he's back, and a few spots that I kind of saw pop up and I kind of agree with. Pittsburgh being one. The Ravens are kind of known as the retirement home for receivers now. So I see Baltimore popping up as one. Everyone's like, end of the career for Stefon Diggs. Come over to Baltimore. This is where we're going to help you finally get to that happy place of retirement. Baltimore can be another one. And an interesting one that I saw was San Francisco. And I think that's the one that I am most attracted to. I like that one. And I'm not going to go over the whole rant again. I think we talked about this last episode, the episode before then. Just what Kyle Shanahan is able to do with weapons inside that offense. I'm surprised Jawan Jennings is not a $30 million wide receiver right now. Because the way he is able to just get guys involved, get a bunch of players that probably want to be as successful on the other teams involved and kind of really spark their career. I think that's what Stefon Diggs needs right now. Because one, he won't be the number one receiver, which is just another point that I'm going to bring up. I think he's at that stage of his career where you got to go somewhere and be willing to be number two, maybe even number three. You're not going nowhere with a Super Bowl contending team as a wide receiver one and leading this team to the Super Bowl again. You got to go take a back seat somewhere. So somewhere like Pittsburgh, where you probably will be wide receiver two behind DK Metcalf, or San Fran, where you're wide receiver two, maybe wide receiver 3 or 4 if we're counting, Kittle and McCaffrey. Just somewhere where you can take that back seat and you can just be reliable when your number's called on. I think that's where he needs to go.
Yeah. I forget what it was. Was it? I forget the name. I think we linked another receiver to the Niners too.
Oh, we did.
I
This
forget his.
this,
I
this
forget
was
who it
recent.
was.
This was
Yeah,
wasn't too long ago.
or was it a? Or was it a? Was it an edge rusher? Maybe I forget. It was something. I forget. But I do like the San Fran fit. It might have been. I
I
think it
think it
was
was.
a wide
It
receiver.
was. So I thought it was maybe Maxx Crosby because we talked about him staying on the West Coast,
Yeah,
can't
and then pairing him with
with
Bosa.
Bosa.
Maybe it
But
was
this
him.
team has a receiver too. They do. Well, we did talk. Wait, no, we talked about another receiver a different time when we were talking about the George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk thing. We're like, would you pay Brandon? Would you pay Kittle 30 million? Ayuk's no longer there. They need a weapon, and we threw another name out there for receiver for San Fran.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but I do like the San Fran comparison, or the San Fran landing spot, I should say, as a potential place. Look, we know what Shanahan's able to do. He is able to scheme guys open, get guys opportunities as best as anybody. Pittsburgh's a good spot, similar to the Bills. Pittsburgh's another team where we talk a lot about, the offense and the receivers and things of that nature. One other team I would throw in the mix, or another team I think is an interesting. I don't know if it'll happen, and I don't know necessarily with all these. Not saying he's not going to play in the NFL, but the legal issues, new regime, rookie quarterback. But the reason I bring this team up is, or not rookie quarterback, second year quarterback, is because it's kind of a similar situation with what he just went through in New England. The Titans. Titans are an interesting landing spot to me for Diggs because I'm not saying the Titans are going to go out there and win 14 games, but you have Cam Ward coming off of year one. You've got a new coaching staff. You won 3 games a year ago. What did New England do? They had a rookie quarterback going into or year 2 quarterback in Drake May. They won 3 games, new coaching staff, very similar things. And there was some growing pains for Drake May. There was some growing pains for Cam Ward in year 1, a lot of growing pains for Cam Ward. I think there's potential for this coaching staff. I think there's potential for Cam Ward in Tennessee. The offensive line's got to get better, and the weapons around him got to get better. I mean, Calvin Ridley, Alec Manor, like that's just not going to cut it. They need a veteran. They need a steady veteran. They need a consistent veteran. Tennessee is a team that, if I had to guess, I don't think it'll happen, but Diggs proved this year that he is a good number 1 wide receiver, good, reliable number 1 wide receiver for a young quarterback. And I think if you're Tennessee, you're willing to take that, similar to Buffalo with DJ Moore. Stefon Diggs walks into that Titans wide receiver room as the far and away best receiver, So I throw Tennessee in the mix. We'd mentioned the Chargers a couple weeks ago. I believe it was you that mentioned the Chargers. Maybe throw them in the mix as well. And one other team that I would throw into the mix too is, and I don't know if this, like maybe with the Commanders, potentially add them too. I like the Tennessee landing spot though. I don't know if they would do that. Instead, they might just draft somebody and go that route.
Well,
But it's intriguing.
you saw me grab my phone. Sorry if it came off as disrespectful. I was actually looking up something because something clicked. I remember something. Brian Dable coached Stefon Diggs
You are right.
for 2 seasons. He did. While Diggs was with Dable, he had a career high 127 catches, 1,500 yards in 2020. And that's before they did 2 seasons together. And that's when Dable obviously went to the Giants. Um, Diggs and Dable have expressed just a lot of trust and a lot of respect amongst each other. I like that landing spot for Tennessee. And Tennessee is also another one of those spots where we have actually joked about this maybe a year ago, where players also go to Tennessee. And when they're going to Tennessee, it's the end of the career. And we threw out a bunch of names. But
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. So not only do you have that rapport with Dable, you have that experience, that connection, but you can draft a wide receiver, absolutely, if Tennessee wanted to. But I think for a guy like Cam Ward, yes, Calvin Ridley is there. Calvin really hasn't been very good. Calvin really is
Yeah.
not very good in
No.
a very long time. So I think you bring over Diggs, you pair him with Ridley, and then you got some younger guys who Chimere DK, for instance, and
Yep.
I can't pronounce Ellie.
Alec, i.e. Manor.
Yeah, I can't pronounce it. But you got your two young guys, you got your two vets right there. If they bring Pollard back, you got your vet running back, and now you have your second year quarterback. And like you just said, similar to New England, you got your second year quarterback with now an offensive coordinator that you have experience with over there. For Tennessee, if you're Stefon Diggs and you're not looking to get paid and you're kind of like, hey, I want to help this young guy out. Let's help him elevate his game. I want to reconnect with Dable. Go to Tennessee.
Yeah.
Expectations aren't super high right now. Same as New England. You go over there and you kind of get yourself back on track and you bring a new light to yourself in NFL media because that's kind of what you need more than anything.
Yeah.
I really like that Tennessee spot. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it's intriguing, and I'm actually very glad you brought up the Brian Dable point because I wasn't even thinking that far and that much in depth, but it's a good point. Dable worked with him in Buffalo. Some of his best seasons came with Dable as the OC. Obviously, having Josh Allen helps, and being a couple years younger definitely helps. But he had 1,500 yards the 1 year under Dable. He followed it up with another 1,200-yard season. His two best seasons of his NFL career were under Brian Dable. And you bring him back into that system. Cam Ward's got some potential. You look for him to take a year two jump similar to Drake May. Diggs was a part of the year two jump with Drake May this season. You hope he could do that with Cam Ward there. So, yeah, definitely an intriguing option. You mentioned the Tennessee. I just quickly found the image here. Here it is. Would Diggs be added to this?
Oh, I think I know this off the top of my head. It's like Adrian Peterson, Joe Johnson, I think, is up there.
Yeah.
Did Hopkins play for Tennessee? I think DeAndre
Yes.
Hopkins was at Tennessee before Baltimore. That's
D-Hop,
three.
AP, Andre Johnson. Two more.
Delaney Walker, I think, is he on that?
Not this one.
Okay. I think Delaney Walker was another one, though.
Yeah, and then there's one with Jamal Adams, too.
Jamal Adams did play for Tennessee. Oh, boy. Who's the other two? Who's the others I'm missing?
Randy Moss.
And
Julio Jones.
There's it. If you're a receiver and you're looking to just play a year, save up some money for Cancun, you go to Tennessee or you go to Baltimore.
Yeah. Titans, it's crazy how many old players they've had that are just washed up. Maybe you think about it. If the Titans had all these guys in their prime,
they probably have 3 Super Bowls right now.
Yeah, they'd be a dynasty.
3 Super Bowls right now.
They wouldn't. They would have. Andre Johnson would be like the team's wide receiver 5, or however you want to.
I think you said Randy Moss, Andre Johnson, D-Hop. I mean, every single year when one of those guys came to Tennessee, they would probably break the single season record in receiving yards, just because that's how all good those guys were in their prime with their respective teams.
You know, it's funny. I don't think people, dude. I just thinking about it. Prime Julio Jones was a menace.
He was a menace.
He was a monster. I was just looking at his numbers. Man, he was 1,800 yards, 136 catches, 1,800 yards in 2015. He was a beast. Prime Julio Jones.
It just kind of saddens me now to think about it. Like, you remember his stint with Philly, and you're just like,
yeah, I was just about to mention the Philly stint.
This is not Julio Jones.
We all make fun of the Tennessee stint, but the Philly stint was just depressing.
Bad. Julio Jones at number 80. What are we like? What are we doing?
And then when he was in Tampa,
oh yes, another one.
I think he was like number 6 in Tampa or something.
Yeah,
or some weird number.
Yeah,
he went from 11 to 2 to 6 to 80. He was all over the map.
Now, kind of, since we're on Julio Jones topic, just curiosity: is he a Hall of Famer?
He's got to be.
I hope so. We've seen some questionable. Not putting some guys in the Hall of Fame. I think he should be first ballot.
I think so too. Julio Jones is a monster.
Yeah.
That was kind of like he's maybe I have a little bit more of a he was like kind of, I guess our childhood's kind of, he was the guy, one of the guys growing up. I mean, even Antonio Brown, that was like prime AB, Des Bryant, all those guys.
Bryant.
Des Bryant, 2015, Brandon Marshall.
Elite, so elite. Brandon
Yes.
Marshall, that's actually a great pull. People don't realize how good Brandon Marshall actually was.
Brandon Marshall was a stud. And he was one of the rare examples where he like came to the Jets in that 2015 season. He took his game to another level. He was good with Chicago, very good with Chicago, and obviously very good with Denver and Miami. But that one season, a lot of times guys go to the Jets and their careers die. There's no other way to put it. He came here and he had that monster season. And then he went to the Giants in Seattle. The Seattle, he was washed.
Yeah, Seattle was.
And the Giants, he was washed too.
Yeah, I forgot about the Giants stint.
2015, Brandon Marshall, 14 touchdowns, 1,500 yards.
Yeah,
man, special times. 2015, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Who else are like? So you had Brandon Marshall was a little bit earlier than like the ABs, Julio Jones. Yeah, because Julio Jones, Brandon Marshall was wrapped up in like 2019. Who else was during that time?
I could be wrong. I think D part of that.
Yeah, D Hop.
I think was Calvin Johnson still part of that time. You had Dez. I think Larry Fitz was part of that time.
Yeah, Larry Fitz. Yep, he's Hall of Fame now.
That might have been the end of Anquan.
The D Hop David Johnson trade. What a disaster.
Yeah. Oh boy. Oh yeah, that one. Golden Tate. Or no, is that Doug Baldwin? It might have been
Baldwin, yeah. Jermaine Kearse.
He was elite for some time.
Another Jets legend.
I remember that.
And I remember Jermaine Kearse. He went to the Lions and tore his ACL in preseason, and that was the end of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, what a time.
Yeah. AB.
There's another one. There's someone else that was so good during that time.
Oh, AJ Green.
Yes. That's who it was. AJ Green was so elite.
AJ Green, yeah. AJ Green was just
what happened.
Peak AJ Green was fun to watch. Andy Dalton, AJ Green.
Dalton and AJ Green. What a time.
He washed up pretty quick. Because he was really good, and then he had towards the end there in Cincy. I remember I think he had the injury. I forget what the injury exactly was. And once the injury happened, he was just done. I think it was an injury. Because I think.
It's just crazy how some of these guys completely phase out. Like, I don't remember him moving teams. It's not like he went anywhere else and got in trouble. It's just one day, you're watching AJ Green give you 1,300 yards, and next day you're just like, when did he retire? I don't remember him retiring, but AJ Green was very good during his time. Yeah,
that was it. He had like a torn ligament in his ankle. I remember, like 2018 or something. He missed like a ton of games, and he just never was the same because he was still good. I remember 2016 AJ Green. I think he only played like 9 or 10 games, but he almost already had 1,000 yards. He was on pace for like a monster season, and he was good again in 2017. And in the 2018 range, he had another injury, and he was just done. It just that the injury happened, and boom, he wasn't the same. And in Arizona was just washed up AJ Green.
One thing I can say, Cincinnati can put together some wide receivers. I can
always they can
credit for that.
TJ Husmangata, I think his name is right.
Chad Ochocinco, not Chad. Yes. Chad Ochocinco. AJ Green. Obviously, the two they got there now.
Yep, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, AJ Green. Yes.
I mean, Tyler Boyd was like kind of.
Tyler Boyd was solid.
He was very good. He was a very good one up there. I think is one of the better Cincy receivers.
Yeah. No, yeah, he was good. Tyler Boyd. A lot of teams would take a Tyler Boyd. Who else was there with AJ Green? Because they had Tyler Croft, I think but he was the tight end. I think he was pretty good.
Dalton Green.
I think I had him on my fantasy team a couple times. Him and no, was it Eifert? Croft? Eifert,
Yeah,
Tyler Eifert was the other one. I had him on my fantasy team a few times. I'm trying to think of who else they had over there as the wide receivers during like the AJ.
It was. Names.
Remember
It was
Marvin Jones Jr.?
Marvin Jones Jr. There's another guy.
The
Was his last name
Lions.
Sampson? He was the one that did the front flip over like the standing front flip. And I think they were playing Arizona and went viral. He was also a very solid wide receiver too.
Jermaine Gresham.
Or was it him?
He was another. And then him and John Brown was. John Brown never played with the. Did he play with? I don't think he ever played with the Bengals, right?
I think he did.
Because he was. I don't know. Because he was Arizona. He had those crazy dances.
I think he did play with Cincy. Let's see. This is not the John Brown I'm looking at. Who is this?
I don't remember that.
John Brown did. Yeah, he did.
I'm just looking at now. There was no really dominant number 2. Anyway, Maxx Crosby to close out the show here gets dealt to Baltimore. 2 first-round picks go to Vegas in this deal. 2026, 2027. All-in win now move for Jesse Minter and the Baltimore Ravens. Your thoughts on this?
Exactly what you said. All-in win now. If you're a Ravens fan, you got to have some confidence in your head coach before the guys have even taken the field. This kind of shows like we're serious. We are serious. We know what we need to win, and we're about to go in and do what it is to get this team back to how the Ravens are used to be. And honestly, for the Ravens, I mean, the defense was bad. They gotten better as the year went on, but this team had 30 sacks. Like they were tied 29th, 30 sacks. Maxx Crosby had 10 alone. They needed help. They needed some guys up front to kind of help take over a game. They did not have that. Obviously, the sack numbers show that. Obviously, the amount of turnovers they forced shows that. Forced turnovers comes with pressure up front, which they didn't do too well. I like the move for Baltimore, and we said it earlier with Joe Burrow. You have 6 games you're not looking forward to. But if you were the Ravens, I mean, I think this is step 1 to getting back to that Baltimore team that we used to see kind of led by the defense. And this is a good move, honestly, for both sides.
Yeah, I agree. I like this move. And I'm glad you brought up that last part for both sides as well. Obviously, a lot of people are going to look at the Baltimore perspective and totally agree with it. It's a great move for Baltimore. Love the pairing with Maxx Crosby and Jesse Minter. Really like the Jesse Minter hire. I think that fits into what Baltimore wants and what Baltimore needs at this stage. You move on from Harbaugh. You get a new, fresh, young defensive mind in there. You let Mike McDonald go, which was looking back on it, maybe a bit of a mistake. So you kind of correct that by bringing in Jesse Minter. Love that aspect of it. Minter schematically is one of the best in the NFL. Defensively, we saw him with the Chargers. He is very strong. His defenses run a lot at you. They give you a lot of exotic looks. And I think from a Maxx Crosby perspective, I just think for him being on a winning team, being on a team that can compete, being on a team where they actually have a legitimate shot going into the season year in and year out, whether or not they're going to take advantage of that, I think could potentially elevate his play too. Because the fact of the matter is, Crosby, this has been kind of like a 2-3 year thing now that every year it's been, is Maxx Crosby going to get traded? Does he want to be here? Does he want out? All this different stuff. A lot of losing he endured in Vegas. This is like the perfect timing of this trade for both sides because the Ravens desperately need help. You mentioned it, near the bottom of the league in sacks. He had a third of their sacks last season. They had 30 as a team. Crosby had 10 of those. That's impressive. That's huge. Crosby's 28 years old. He's going to be 29 before the season. He is got a couple really good years left. The time is now for him to capitalize on his prime, capitalize on his window to be a legitimate game changer, to be dominant off the edge, and to do it with a team that can win, to do it with a team that can get to the playoffs, compete, and potentially get to a Super Bowl as opposed to a team like the Raiders where you're the odds of them competing and winning a Super Bowl anytime soon are extremely low. And for Maxx Crosby, as he nears 30, he's got to win. And there's no doubt he wanted to be a part of a winning team, and he gets to do that now with the Ravens. So I really like that trade. I really like that angle of it from Baltimore's perspective. From the Raiders' perspective, I also like this because the reality is you're never winning anything with Crosby, and you need as much help as you can get on that roster. You need as much help as you can get around Fernando Mendoza, putting him in the best position. You need to completely retool and revamp that defense. And I also just think it's good for both sides to move on, right? Crosby had a lot of success in Vegas, and we talk about a lot of some of the stuff he went through just out in his regular life, where he's really kind of turned his life around. All that took place during his time, with Vegas, and they believed in him. They took a chance on him. So both sides, there was a lot of good moments, a lot of great play from Crosby. But at this point, it got to a point where it's starting to get a little toxic, and it was best for both sides to move on. Crosby clearly didn't want to fully be there. You had the incident at the end of last season where they sit him and he was healthy. To get 2 firsts for him is really good value because this Raiders team needs talent. They just need guys that can come in, that are good football players, that can help the team win. And they did just that. So your thoughts on, I guess, the Raiders here moving forward with these picks now?
I'm right there with you. I mean, this is that time where you just got to start fresh. You got to go young. Obviously, everyone in the world knows Mendoza's going to the Raiders. So you want to build around him. And you talk about retooling the defense, retool the offensive line, get him some weapons. There's no reason why, as good as Aston Genty was in college, struggled to find success. And, he had some games. He had some very good games, but then he had some very bad games where you didn't even think he was part of the team. So if you're the Raiders, man, you got to take these picks and either draft very well, or now if you want to make a splash for a receiver, I'm going to just throw out a crazy name, not saying it's going to happen. But if you get Mendoza and you're like, we need a weapon. Hey, A.J. Brown. Hey, Philly, here's some picks for you. Give us A.J. Brown. Now you have the tools around you, or at least the assets, to build this roster up. New coach over there. I think the Raiders are in a good spot right now. And in this division, I mean, in the league in general, you don't got that much time. Like, clock is ticking at every single moment. So for the Raiders, the young quarterback coming in, second-year running back, and the division as good as it is, where all 3 teams around you are, more than capable of winning the Super Bowl, you have to try to make a push to win now and be good as soon as possible. And I think this move helps them do that.
Yeah, it's funny because it's A.J. Brown, Fernando Mendoza dynamic.
Oh, it's gonna be another Devontae situation, or or Antonio Brown situation. I don't think that's gonna work.
Fernando, throw me the ball. Okay, AJ.
I don't think that's gonna work.
Yeah, but no, I mean, they could make another splash move. They also have these picks now with ammunition. You got 2 firsts this year, 2 firsts next year, so 4 firsts over the next 2 years. So you don't have to sit and pick all those, use all those, and pick with them. You could utilize them, trade for an AJ Brown, make a blockbuster deal this year, next year. You've got ammunition, you've got flexibility now. And yeah, I mean, Chip Kelly was a disaster. He didn't even last the full season. They need to just, they got Brock Bowers, they got Ashton Genty. Let's use them, And I think too, more of a balanced attack with Mendoza, relying on the run game with Mendoza, easing him into a lot of these games, not having him have to put this team on his back. That's huge for any rookie quarterback, but especially for the Raiders and Mendoza. With Genty, you've got an elite, you've got a running back that has potential to be elite, a running back that showed in college what he can do. Use him properly, build up a better offensive line. The offensive line was a disaster last season. Go after a Tyler Linderbaum, somebody like that. They desperately need help on that offensive line, because the reality is no quarterback is going to survive behind that offensive line. This running back isn't going to survive behind that offensive line. And defensively, they need some improvements too. So they got a lot of work to do. Clint Kubiak, John Spytek, the rest of that organization. It feels like with the Raiders, we have gone through so many different iterations of them. We went from the Derek Carr, Devontae Adams duo of this is going to get us over the top. And Rick Bisaccia, then Josh McDaniels, and then Antonio Pierce, and then Pete Carroll, Geno Smith. Oh, this is going to work. Now that failed. Now you're going with the first time head coach. You're going to go with the rookie quarterback. They're running out of options.
Pain.
Trade the star player.
Pain, nothing but pain for the Raiders. And I mean, the whole rebrand from Oakland to Vegas, and then Derek Carr, Devontae Adams, that was supposed to be the team to do it. That finally was supposed to be the one that, got over the hump. And you fast forward a few years later, and we're still talking about this Raiders team trying to find their footing. I think the city of Vegas is growing unhappy with the Raiders. There's pressure. There's definitely some pressure. Kubiak's under a lot of pressure. Mendoza's going to be under a lot of pressure. This team has to figure it out. Because at this point, I mean, I know you're probably going to say you're Jets, but the Raiders have to probably be the doormats of the NFL.
They're up there. They're up there. Them and the Jets they're terrible. So I always find funny about all these prospects are avoiding the Jets. It's like the Raiders have just been a fantastic organization for all these years.
Yeah, I don't know if I personally was a one, Raiders potentially looking at me in the draft, I might go back to college. If I got the eligibility, I might go back. Yeah. Seen it done before. It's not crazy.
Anyway, any closing thoughts?
As usual, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Next week, we'll be back with a lot more. And stay tuned for just any news in general. There's a lot that we couldn't get into today, but it's been a very good offseason. But always thank you guys for rocking out with us during the summertime, during the slower period, and we'll see you next week.
Yes, appreciate the support as always. Next week, big episode 100, so look forward to that. We'll have a lot of free agency talk to dive into. The Jets will have a quarterback by then, which is scary. And we'll see how it all takes place. See how it all rolls out here. But to echo what you said, appreciate everybody still tuning in during the off-season months. The last couple of weeks here have been a little bit on the slower end in February and into early March, but we finally got free agency, so that'll be good this week. And then you always got the free agency fallout. You'll always have the second wave. Then you get set for the draft. So things continue to move forward here. Crazy to think we're only about a month away from like OTAs opening up, or I shouldn't say OTAs, like off-season workouts. Those start to open up here, usually like early April. They start to open up, I know, before the draft, and you get the rookie mini camp, and then you'll get more OTAs, and you get mandatory mini camp in June. That's much more down the road, but yeah, we'll see. We're gonna start to see some, clips of guys throwing passes to each other in shorts and t-shirts in April, which I get excited for it because it's the closest thing we'll get to football this time of year.
Definitely better than nothing.
Yes, that's for sure. So appreciate all the support. We'll be back next week and talk to you then.